could know all the things, you could know all these things and more, but you don't. You could go places, you could go these places and more, but you won't. This place is home. Home is your stone. This place is home. Home is your stone. Good morning. Speaking of Stones, Jackie Stone.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm Jackie Stone. Thank you for being here in person or there online. To begin, please join me in a breath. There we go. Technology. Feel yourself breathing. Follow the sensations of your breath into a fuller embodiment. We breathe so that we might be fully present where we are and when we are, letting thoughts of what has been and what might be away just for now. We breathe together so that we might be about the work of community together. We are so much more together than we are alone. Donnie, have an announcement?
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone who came to the flow painting class yesterday. We had a lot of fun and made some beautiful artwork, and there still are a number of the pieces out in the eating area of our finished projects that you might look at and go, ooh. Secondly, I'm still looking for people to fill the speaker positions from now through the end of June. At some point, some of those may have to switch around depending on if we have an interviewee that we want to give a message that day. And thirdly, if anyone has any ideas, because we have a fifth Sunday in May, on what we might do that day. We always try to do something a little different and creative and fun for those fifth Sundays. Okay.
It's me.
Please let me know because we are looking for ideas for that particular fifth Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Charlotte Lemieux, and just to touch base and stay connected, Amber Love and I had a really quick discussion before the service. We're going to change out the celebration room table next week, and if anybody has any ideas or would like to help us, please try and get with us and give us your ideas. Bring us your resources. Thank you.
And also, we're beginning the process of inventorying the church. It's going to be a multi-stage process of deciding what we're keeping, what we're selling, what we're donating away, what we're taking with us, what we're putting in storage. But right now, we're on step one, and that is just inventory. So several people have signed up, and if anybody else wants to sign up, just see me. And I think we're going to have our first get together on that on next Saturday. Any more announcements? All right. I invite you to extend a greeting to those who have gathered with you. If you're here, make your way around the room as you're able and greet your neighbors. If you're not up for hugs or handshakes, you're welcome to stay seated, share a smile, and give a wave. Online, use the chat option to share greetings. All right. You're all being played off stage. Okay. If everybody can go back to their seats and the youth can go to youth sangha now.
We turn to matter. This group likes gathering together, and we're mattering to one another. Now we're sinking into our chairs and thinking of all our prayers and those of us left behind. You know we hear the signs. They're saying that it's time to breathe in, breathe out. Just be here right now. Yeah, we're sinking down. Yeah, we're sinking down. Breathe in, breathe out.
And now Thomas is going to lead us in meditation.
Yes. Here at the church at the church within, we meditate to connect with Source, to clear the clutter of our minds, and to remember that it is our inheritance that we are one, capable of being love in every circumstance, and wise enough to bring that truth to our hearts and to take action. So let's take a slow breath in. And let it out gently. Settle into this present moment, knowing that you are more than what is seen. Ask yourself quietly, what is it that I am here after? What truth is my soul seeking? What meaning lives beyond this moment? What am I becoming as I move through this life? Reflect on the mystery of your metaphysical beingness, on the eternal self that reaches beyond the visible, beyond the temporary, beyond the known. Allow your thoughts to rest in the possibility that your journey did not begin here and does not end here. Now bring your awareness to this moment, to the energy you carry within you. Feel the power of presence, intention, and alignment. Imagine this energy flowing through your thoughts, words, and actions, shaping the reality you live today. May the wisdom of the hereafter guide the choices of the here and now. May your beliefs illuminate your path. May your inner being help you manifest peace, clarity, purpose, and love in this life. Take a breath again. And now carry this question with you. What is it that I am here after? And let's take a few moments in silence and just listen for the answer that arises from within. And so it is. Amen. The foundation of the church within is prayer. If you have a need for others to pray for you or with you, you may submit your prayer requests online at thechurchwithin.org. When you are here at church, you can use the prayer request boxes, one in this room and one in the lobby. And if you want someone to pray with you today, I will be available after the service at the front of this room to pray with you. Thank you.
And now, let's welcome Reverend Jane Kercheval to share her message with us.
Thank you. You're all so kind. And thank you for being here. There's nothing like waking up on a Sunday morning and knowing, will anybody show up today? Did they see I was the speaker and so they're just going to stay at home? We never know, do we? So, perfect music. Where's Danny? Thank you. Thank you, Thomas, for the perfect meditation. So when he asked to you to think about what you're here after, did you find an answer? Was the answer for this moment or your life in general? There's different ways of looking at that. And you know, there's a little joke that goes with that whole thing. A dear friend asked me the other day if I ever thought about the hereafter. And I said, yeah, I already do. Every time I walk into the kitchen or the garage, I ask, what am I here after? That just comes with the process of aging. And who knew at 78 I'd break my first bone? So rather than explain this to every single one of you, helping volunteer with Keep Indianapolis Beautiful. Last week, planting trees in the rain in a neighborhood where the soil was clay. I stepped backwards after doing a little shoveling and slipped off one of those slanted curbs. Landed on my butt, which wouldn't have hurt anything, except my arm tried to catch me too. Didn't shatter, but fractured the distal radius. Scraped up my elbow. How did it do that through 3 layers of clothing? I don't know. But Keep Indianapolis Beautiful had to fill out forms because I was on their time and sent me to the emergency room, and the x-ray showed a fracture. Had a huge, if you were here last Sunday, I had this huge wrapping thing that I couldn't even get clothes over. I was like, oh, I'm going to have to wear this shirt for the rest of my life. But then I went to an ortho, and he said, we don't need to do surgery. Let's just put a cast on it for a couple weeks and see how it turns out. So they'll check it again next week, and we'll go from there. Meanwhile, I asked for purple because if it's on during the women's chorus concert, I wanted to make sure I matched the outfits that we wear, which are black and dark purple. So, initially we had asked Reverend Louise to speak today, and she was going to be gone this weekend, and I had promised Donna, if she can't come, I'll just do it. Here I am. And then Friday was approaching, and we put the title of the talk in our weekly newsletter, and if you're not getting that, please sign up so that you do, so you keep up with what's happening here. And so I had to come up with a title, and I had all of these thoughts that I had been wanting to put together for a talk someday. And it was like, this week is the someday that's going to happen. So I came up with the idea of the hereafter because that's the things I had been thinking about. As I approach the end, close parentheses, of my life, and that's what Reverend Yvonne used to call it. You know, we start out here, and all that happens to us is in that parentheses, and then we pass. And the parentheses are closed. That's the end of the life. Well, I'm not too concerned about it. My father died at age 96 and my mother at 97. There's some longevity in my genetic makeup, so I'm not too concerned about it, although accidents can happen anytime. And I figure I have another 19, maybe 20 years. The wonderful thing is that I hope for many of you too is that through this church, through the multiple book studies, through the workshops, and all of the spiritual experiences and discussions I've had with many of you, I'm pretty convinced that that closed parentheses is merely a transition from one format to another. Most of my life, I have had, quote, eternal life as part of my belief system. It's just there within me. And I'm still refining what that means for me, but to share with you, where did that concept start? As a child growing up, I really didn't have a solidified idea about death and dying and the, quote, hereafter. My religious upbringing consisted of going to whatever church was close enough to our home that I could walk, or that the four of us could walk. And initially, I'm pretty sure I got baptized or christened as an Evangelical United Brethren. I think they're gone now. I think they merged with the Methodist Church, and I kind of laughed at my grandmother when that happened because EUB was the way to grow up. When I turned 5, we moved to Richmond, Indiana, and as a family, we attended a Presbyterian church nearby. That's where I learned the Apostles' Creed. Brable, would you put up that first slide that I created? Now, you're not going to be able to read it. I don't need you to read it. Some of you already know it, or you know a Nicene Creed. But as I looked online for it, it took me a while to find the one that I knew that we had learned to memorize as Presbyterians. And I realized over the many years, I haven't said it out loud for a really long time, but it's still in our head. And Danny and I were talking about that earlier. Sometimes the things you learn as a kid in a church, it's still there, but you've put a new meaning to it. But the one line that did stay was the very last line, and the life everlasting. So something in me said there is life everlasting. And yet, people around me died periodically. So there was all this confusion as a child. What did that mean, life everlasting? It made me ponder. What happened to the body if it didn't last forever? What was it that was eternal? Why did we never see that? I was watching a video of Joe Dispenza's on YouTube a couple weeks ago, and I'll talk more about him because we're doing one of his books in the book study on Wednesdays. He asked a question that I'm going to ask you. How many of you believe you have a soul? And that's what happened to the audience he asked. Hands went up. I immediately said no. And I smiled when he gave his response, which was, you don't have a soul. You are a soul. You are a soul living in a physical body. So that may be something you want to tweak in your thinking process. What we're showing up with to each other right now is going to go away. It happens. That's the way the world that we created exists. Things go away, but our souls don't. And why not? I'm sure some of you have heard that idea stated here before in the church because we've talked about it in workshops or Sunday messages. I don't remember discussing the end of life in the churches I attended growing up. When I was in the 6th grade, we moved across town and there was a new church that we had to pick. And the rule was go somewhere. Doesn't matter where, go somewhere. There were 3 places close by. There was a Baptist church, there was a Quaker church across the street from the United Methodist Church, which was 2.5 blocks away. I picked the Methodist church because some of my school friends went there, and I think some of them might have invited me when I said something about a Sunday morning. One of my brothers picked the Baptist church. And I'm not sure if the younger brother went with him. He was too little. I don't know what happened. But that brother quit the Baptist church after one Sunday when one of his classmates put chewing gum on his seat and he got it stuck on his Sunday pants and he said, I'm done. So he had originally wanted to be a Catholic anyway because when we used to walk to school, we passed the Catholic kids' house and they were out of school more than we were. So he wanted to be Catholic and grew up and later became a Catholic during his 3rd marriage. His own choice. Really pissed our dad off. And my dad could never understand why all 4 of us ended up being involved with different religions. There's a Roman Catholic, there's a Baha'i, my sister is a fundamentalist Christian, we don't have much of a relationship, and then there's me. The thing I remember most is that my parents didn't go anywhere, except maybe Christmas or Easter. Nor did they talk to us about what we were learning and discussing in church or Sunday school. And definitely they didn't talk about death and dying. I was fairly young when a great uncle passed away, or maybe it was a great uncle. My mother pulled me aside and said, we have to go to the funeral. You'll see your dad blubbering and crying. Just ignore it. That's what I was taught. And sure enough, Dad did cry. My mother not. But it took years before I understood, because her mother had died when she was 8 years old, none of her and her siblings were not allowed to grieve. My mother never learned to cry. And I didn't really know that until many, many years later. Even when my great-grandmother, my mother's grandmother, came to live with us because she was dying of cancer, they came from Kentucky to stay with us in Richmond, and my grandmother passed, nobody talked about it. It was just something that was happening, and I honestly don't remember when she died or how she died or where they took the body. Nothing. That happened when I was in junior high, and I was attending Methodist Sunday school at the time. I don't remember much of what I learned or any of the specifics, except I did have a confrontation with the church Sunday school superintendent. My teacher, Mrs. Klinkenbeard, was an older woman, and one day was teaching, and she held up her Bible and said, "This is the holy word of God." Now, within moi, the little girl sitting there must have been a budding linguist at the time, because I raised my hand, got called on, and said, "How is that possible? That book's in English, and I'm pretty sure God didn't speak English." I didn't know a lot, but I knew that. Superintendent yanked me aside and said, "Don't you ever do that again. You could have had her cause a heart attack." So what I did learn from that is words have power. There's a lot of power in words. Think of all the times that you've either experienced or known somebody in the LGBTQA community who were told, "You can't tell your mom, you can't tell your dad, you can't tell your grandparents, you'll kill them." Words can kill, supposedly, but they do have power. When I first read about Kabbalah Jewish history, it was about God's words creating the world and all its components. God would say something and create something. God spoke. It was manifested. Did anybody ever teach you that or teach me that? I don't remember hearing about the creation of things like that. Words do have power. And why? Words are creative through their vibration and their intent. Everything on this planet that is not of the natural world, that is, everything that we humans have created, came first from an idea. The idea was put into words and then was manifested. Words have power. Words create. Hold on to that thought. Back to the afterlife portion of this message. What put me on the path of afterlife was a book report assignment in high school. We had a creative English teacher, and one of the options for a book report was take 3 of the Gospels in the Bible and do a comparative analysis. And I thought, oh, that'll be easy. I have a Bible at home. Well, I did it, and who knows what I got grade on it. But what I did in reading all those things was recognizing this can't be literal. It's not possibly literal. There are many fundamentalists who would argue that with me, though, and I don't bring it up with my sister, obviously. But I'm not the only person who came to that conclusion. I recently began reading Right Reverend John Shelby Bong's book, Biblical Literalism, a Gentile Heresy. I'm only a couple chapters in, but I've learned a lot. His thesis is, and I support it, is that the reader of the New Testament has no understanding of the Jewish calendar. If they have no understanding of the Jewish calendar and Jewish teachings in the synagogue, there's no way the reader could understand what was actually being said about Jesus. Let us remember, Jesus and his followers were Jews. They went to the synagogue. They knew the teachings. What I've also learned is that those who started writing about Jesus did so 70 to 100 years after his life. They were writing from what they were taught in the synagogues where they attended. The stories became part of the teachings of the Jewish people. Let us also remember how many times those words have been translated through various languages. And originally in the Aramaic, as Reverend Darren used to tell us, Aramaic is a big content language. Words had depth. They had understanding that related to the times, the culture that the people lived in. And so when Jesus' words were spoken, those people knew something deeper than what we now read in English words, which is a word for word, literal kind of meaning. So, understanding eternal life. At that point, doing that book report, I was convinced that Jesus' reference to the many rooms in my Father's house meant that people had multiple lives, many lives. There weren't literal rooms where we all got to pick where we were going to reside for the remaining part of whatever our souls did. So reincarnation of some sort became a part of my thinking process. And whenever we had to recite the Apostles' Creed, there was that everlasting life. So from then on, I was open to learning more about what that reincarnation process might be like. I didn't focus on learning it. It wasn't a study that I took up in my younger years as a mom and a married person. Speaking of moms, she and others in her family had some sort of what we now call woo-woo. She could see things, she knew things. People in the family dreamed things that became truth. There was just a lot of stuff going on, and I was told that I had inherited some of that woo-woo, but nobody ever told me what it meant or how to use it or anything about it. It was just there. So, at one point, she told me, if you do this right, you don't have to come back and do it again. I didn't know exactly what she meant at that time. Later, it was like, oh, she wasn't talking about the homework I was struggling with. She was talking about this lifetime. But dear God, how do you do this lifetime right without instruction? There are rules everywhere. There's family rules, there's school rules, there's government rules all around, there's cultural rules, there's things we're expected to live up to. And I don't know about you, but I was always screwing things up. I was always in trouble. Was not perfect, although the church kept saying you are perfect, but not really, because Jesus was the only perfect example. I mean, there was just so much confusion. So who are we really? Eventually, I got exposed to metaphysical as well as scientific knowledge that made sense to me and helped me solidify my beliefs. Everything, including us, human beings, are made up of little things called, anybody know? Atoms, yes. Interesting that it sounds like the word Adam in the Bible. Maybe there's some relationship there and we've just overlooked that linguistic connection. Atoms, however, they have discovered are made up of littler things. They're made up of electrons, neutrons, and protons. And the last two, the neutrons and protons, are supposedly made up of quarks and gluons. And gluons is what it says. It glues the stuff together. What I've learned is that those atoms are mostly space. They're not things, they're space. They're mostly empty. And I've heard and read that the space might be actually light or energy or love. It's the basis of every single thing. Yet everything we see and feel feels solid. Check. Your chair, you, your glasses, your neighbor feels solid. None of us know for sure that there's enough emptiness that we can put our hand through a wall or through another person. It feels solid because all of those atoms have a vibration. And the vibration is slowed down so that we can experience it in a physical form. Because that's who we are. We are slowed down vibrations to become physical. Brable, would you stick up the next slide, please? So, on top of the vibrations, all the things that we can't see and hear are actually vibrations at a frequency that are undetectable by our human senses. This room is full of radio waves, TV waves, light waves, and who knows what else that we simply can't detect because we don't have the equipment to detect anything yet. That little tiny section where it says visible spectrum goes to that little tiny slot in the whole linear line. That little tiny part is where we exist, where we can see and hear things. There's so much more above and below our particular realm that we don't know. I mean, they know there's x-rays, they know there's things, they've learned to use some of them, but there's so much more, so much more. And it's all related to vibrations. We just don't have the equipment to detect it all. I love homeopathy because one of the theories is how it works is based on vibrations. Every substance that remedies are made out of has a vibration. We know that for sure. And we think that when the substances are turned into a tincture and the tincture is sprayed on the little pellets that you pop in your mouth or put in the creams that you put on your bodies, that somehow is the medicine that is being transferred from the original item. But we don't have any equipment to detect that tiny of a vibration. Someday they will. They'll figure it out. And that's a whole other class if you ever want to learn more about homeopathy. So, somewhere along the way here at Church Within, I learned that we, you and me, are co-creators with God or the divine or creation or whatever you want to call it, because that doesn't matter what you call it. You just have to know it's there and relate to it. Excuse me. So that makes each of us a co-creator with all the energy in the spectrums above and below where we exist. I sometimes call it divine, God, creator. Doesn't matter. Because we all each are light beings at our very core. If you want to read a very basic story of how we come to be the person we are and to recognize that we are all one, Neil Donald Walsh's book, The Little Soul in the Sun, is a fabulous story. You can actually find it on YouTube and have it read, and it shows the book pictures as you go along. Some decades ago, Susan Peoples, a member of this church, gave me a copy of that, and it really solidified for me the oneness of who we are and why we exist with each other. For a long time, I had heard we choose as a soul in the hereafter, or should we call it before, after, or here before, that we are those souls that are light. And we exist together, and sometimes people choose to manifest in the physical form as a family or this community. There has to be a reason that we all are part of this community and are still here. Now, in that realm, if you can imagine it, there are communications between the light beings, the little souls, if you will. And we make obligations to each other, and we choose to come together to create experiences. How many of you have heard that you're here to learn lessons? Yeah, many of us have heard that. We choose to come back so that we can experience love, forgiveness, creating, to learn to choose again if we fall into those emotions of hate or judgment or lying or doing anything unloving, so that the soul has an opportunity to experience all of those things. And we know the human form screws up. We just do. It's inevitable. And through relationships, we always have the chance to choose love again instead, each and every time something goes amiss. Now, we appear to exist in a linear fashion, those parentheses, that line of life that we have. That's what we experience in the physical form. But the soul doesn't have that. It is continuous. It is instantaneous. It's in the moment. Everything, any of the lives that we have or will experience are all at the same time. That stretches my mind really, really hard. But think about it. We have created this world to come play in and to be educated in. The Course in Miracles helped me do some of that. The Course, if you're not familiar with it, is a channeled writing supposedly dictated by Jesus through a Jewish woman psychologist. And he did it to help people realize what we had forgotten and who we really are. And if you want the story about the creation of that particular book and lessons, it's in the story called Absence from Felicity, the story of Helen Schuckman and her scribing of A Course in Miracles that Kenneth Wapnick wrote. As humans, we forget who we are. We create obstacles to the love that we really are and that really exist. And the Course contains a series of lessons to help each student develop the willingness to remove those barriers. In other words, to accept what is and to love it. One of the book study group books that we did was Matt Kahn's book called Whatever Arises, Love That. That's a great guide to getting in the mindset of letting everything be as it is and just love it. There's no pain in life if we do that. There's no discord. Just accept whatever happens and move on. So, in my opinion, the energy, the light being that was known as Jesus some 2,000 years ago, wanted us to know who and what we really are and what we are capable of. And that spirit, that soul, took the initiative to come back in the 60s to dictate instructions to help the current civilization learn through Helen's writings of what he said to get the same message that he was trying to give when he was in the flesh 2,000 years ago. I personally believe that he was born as one of the great metaphysicians of all time, that he came into being and he knew who he was. He didn't forget that he was a soul living in a physical body, and he tried to teach other people that. It's hard to do when you're limited by language. At least he had Aramaic, which had bigger ideas than we find in English. So here we are, light beings in a physical body trying to figure out why we're here now. Have you ever had the nagging feeling that there's something more to be done before you die, before your physical body leaves this plane? For years, I have believed that my family reincarnated together for a reason and that I had some special purpose into fixing whatever was wrong with the family, and there was a lot wrong. I always said, we put the fun in dysfunctional. But it took me 70 years of believing that before I figured out, and I had a therapist who really helped me understand, I wasn't responsible. There's two sides to every relationship, at least. And I wasn't responsible for making sure that my parents and siblings understood what I understood. I could share it, but I couldn't make them take it. And that's okay. I've been in the Wednesday night book study club since it got started back in COVID days, and many of the topics in the books that we read and discussed had to do with death and dying, and what happens to our body, our soul, if you wish to call it that, during the dying process. We read the lessons in the Tao, and I do believe we all, you and most of you don't have a fear of, I've talked to some of you, and most of you don't have a fear of dying. You're at a place in life where you know there's something else. I think most of us want that transition, that end, to not be painful for our physical bodies, and we all can pray for each other that that's the case. But so what's a body to do in the meantime, awaiting those final moments? The seed I want to plant today is something that you may choose to participate in. The current book club is reading Joe Dispenza's Becoming Supernatural. Looks like that. We are moving into the fourth of 14 chapters. Chapter 3, which we just finished, intrigued me because we had just done vision boards here at the end of last month. That was a way of us making visualizations that we could focus on to create, to manifest something that we wanted in our lives. I personally have struggled with making vision boards. I can never get clear about what I want. So it's random that shows up. And before I could actually, I took the pictures with me to my home with my blank board. And before I could sit down and cut out specific pictures and glue them on, chapter 3 in here expanded my thinking process and how to do it. Not only did I need to envision what I wanted, I needed to manifest the vibrational energy of what I wanted within me so that I could draw it to me from that vast metaphysical vibrational field that's out there. Danny has sung about the field in past songs. There's so much here that's helping us and guiding us to what we can do. That electromagnetic field has the potential to provide whatever you really want. Brable, would you pop up the next slide, please? And understand, I stole this stuff from the web. I know you're not supposed to copyright stuff. So it was on the web, so I just made a slide of it. Don't try to write it down. I've got copies for you up here of it and the next one. And I give full credit to Dr. Dispenza for creating these things. It's going to help me get my vision board into alignment with who I really am and what I really want. The first big challenge is to get into the present moment. And we do that moment by moment. We accept that there's no familiar past and no predictable future. There's only right now. In the present, with this process, you decide what area you want to manifest something in. Dr. Dispenza uses a capital letter to represent the fields of electromagnetic potential. Uses an R if you want a relationship, J for a job, P for a problem that you want to solve, M for a mystical experience. Anybody up for a mystical experience? Yeah. G, use a G for a genius mind, H for health, A for abundance, or O for a new opportunity. There's another area that you might be drawn to that only you know about. Just pick the capital letter of that area and put that at the center of your desire. He also went on to explain that when we're doing this process, we can't be in a place of feeling limited or unhappy like a victim. We can't do that because those are past thoughts. And if we're dragging those with us into the now, then we'll only manifest more of the same. And you all know that if you've ever used affirmations, you're supposed to think of what is to be, what you want to draw to yourself, what you want to create. I remember one time a workshop here at the church, the other building, it was said, you know, if you want a new shirt or a new blouse, you don't just call up Sears and say, send me something. You get specific. You specify the size, the color, the fasteners, the design, the collar you want, the length of the sleeve. You specify. And so what we're doing now, and we started it with the vision boards, specifying what we want. Although sometimes there's not a picture that goes with exactly what you want. But we can focus that way using pictures and words. Remember I said words have power? This is where it comes in. Joe says, list precisely what your wants are, your intentions or your thoughts. Brable, I need another slide. In the book, there's an example of what Joe's son did to follow his dad's instructions. He listed on the left exactly what he wanted his next job to be like. Pretty clever. He said amazing things like, I want to work from anywhere in the world. I want to make the same amount of money or more. Always put in or more or better. I want contracts for 6 months to a year, and on and on and on. He was very specific about what he wanted. On the right side, the job was to list how he was to feel, his emotions, energy in motion. Once that's manifested, what are you going to feel like? I had to stop and think about that because I know what I want now. I saw a house for sale the other day. I looked it up. It's $500,000. Yeah. And immediately I was like, how can I manifest $500,000? Instead of saying, oh, I can't have that. At least I'm leaning the right way. And then I thought, well, it opens up on Michigan Road. I really don't want that house. I want that or something better. I want that size. I want the convenience area. But there's more specifics. So I sat down and listed, how am I going to feel when I manifest enough abundance to get the place I want to live or remodel what I have. I'm okay with that. I had to get specific about how I'm going to feel. So there's different words for that. You might have love or joy, inspiration, excitement, awe, wonder. Gratitude is always good too. And you list those on the right side of your chart. And remember earlier I said words are important. They carry energy. They carry the meaning that you're giving them. It's really critical here to be clear and select the exact words that you want to represent what you're creating and how you will feel, once that arrives. And while I think reading and studying the book and doing the meditations and learning to become very present in a moment with no distractions is important for some of us. You may be able to pull this off without the work and using the book. Some of you may have already developed a meditation practice that will get you to be only in the present moment quickly and easily. I'm not there yet. I'm still working on that. And he's going to go through meditations with us to help us get into that position. But it'll be another tool in a toolbox to create more of what you actually want for the rest of your physical life. I used to hold on to the idea that my mother said, what she said about do it right so you don't have to come back again. I didn't think I wanted to come back because I kept seeing all the horrible things in my life that, dear God, I don't want to experience these again. But now I'm not so sure that sentence that she gave me applies. I truly believe that I chose this life as a light being, as a soul in the before. And so all of the lessons and experiences that have happened are part of what were meant to happen for me, to make me, the soul, experience the things that I wanted to experience. I chose to come back as a white female who fell in love with a guy and then fell in love with a woman. We all as souls get to choose what format we come back into, what culture, what skin color. And I don't use the word race because human beings made up that word. That's crap. So choosing who you are right now is something you might want to take a look at and say, yeah, this is who I am, and I wanted to be this. Why? So concurrently, my intention is to use what's left of the physical time here on this planet to become more metaphysical and manifest intentionally. I am in the process of amending my vision board so that I have much more clarity about what I'd like to experience in the next 19, 20 years, whatever's left. And that doesn't mean I won't be loving whatever does happen, because I do believe that's important too. One of the things that does matter to me is this community. All of you, whether you're here or online or in between, we are all still manifesting what we are to become as individuals who are together, and we do it in this community with love and caring for each other in the here and now. And I bless you all for that. Thank you for being part of this. Blessed be.
Thanks, Jane. There's an unopened box from the before times, sitting in a storage room since 2009, proudly still displaying its now dusty sign. How about that? How about that? There's a set of car keys lost in the woods, but if you were to find them, it wouldn't do you any good, 'cause that car, it broke down and I moved on like you should. How about that? How about that? And I think about those car keys as they look up at the sky, waiting for eternity and wondering why they simply have to sit there staring at the starry sky. How about you? How about you? Yeah, me too. There's an old tune that sings, I'm just happy on the shelf. But do you think that box wants to rot inside itself? Well, I'm saving my love, but I am misbehaving. How about you? How about you? out of celebrated stadiums. Grandiose things simply left to fall away. What are we waiting for, sitting on our shelves? I found you. I found you. What do we want to do? What do we want to do? And I think about those car keys as they look up at the sky, waiting for eternity and wondering why they simply have to sit there staring at the starry sky. How about you? How about you? Yeah, me too.
Let's join together in the offering prayer. Beloved divine, all that I am and all that I have comes from your limitless supply. I am an open and willing conduit through which your good flows. I share all that I have as you direct. Love, friendship, prosperity, peace, abundance, and joy are gifts that I share and receive. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, God. Amen. Gracious and loving source of all good things, we pause with gratitude for what we have received. We offer these gifts today with open hearts, recognizing that all we have is a blessing and an opportunity to bring goodness, healing, and hope into the world. May these offerings be used to serve others, to uplift those in need, and to strengthen our community in compassion and care. Bless the hands that give, the hearts that share, and the work that these gifts will support. We continue to live with generosity, purpose, and love. Amen.
Closing song.
Closing song.
All people are holy, many paths, one God. All people are holy, only love is real. No matter who you are, no matter where you've been, let's gather together and let the Spirit
Peace above us and below us. Peace to the right and to the left. Peace within and without. Peace in the face of everyone we meet. Peace in the words to everyone we greet. Amen.
Yeah, I'm really curious now.
Finally? You're out there now? How many of them? See, when I call them the big three of them, should we were here.
He's just sitting in his bed waiting for somebody else to
Probably detective. Because some of these businesses were broken into.
Yeah, that one, most definitely.
I think they hit that Mexican restaurant, both of them.
It's pretty obvious that it was locals that got robbed.
Yeah, that was a Castro.
Yeah, because they're this codes.
And they were, well, and it was on the news early this morning too, that more places were hit, because they were hit this Saturday too, on Friday night.
I don't know why they're going after
They hit that plaza on 38th Street, there's a bunch of Indian stores. But they hit Pike Plaza last week too, and that's all Mexican. So yeah.
I don't know why they did that back in this place.
Because it probably was quiet and they could bust it open and get the drawer out of it.
If they left the door, it's just they took all the money.
Yeah.
So they had time.
Yeah, they probably don't have it on.
See, that's why the cameras do work here. Yeah, the cameras just don't work.
No. And that's a comment. It's harmless. No. I'm just telling them that put the trespass warnings on.
Yeah. One of these days I have to fix it.
They used to let no. But come on, we put the fence up for a reason. It has to stop.
Wait, they're climbing the fence?
Yes, they're getting on top of where the air conditioner's fenced in at. They're getting on top of that fence and coming over. They were starting fires inside there still. Yeah.
Which is really just fine with them on the
And I already told myself, I was like, God, I was calling the cops. I didn't care what anybody said.
I'm surprised they haven't tried to sleep on top of it.
It's not perfect. That's probably why they don't.
Well, if they tried to break into the door.
Which is surprising because I have pain. It's happened twice in the left hand. Yeah.
I need to get the camera switched. Yeah, but that's in a couple of months. I already split the patch box up. At least the back camera switch.
Oh shit, I didn't cut the ties.
I was repeatedly able to get it to say, press power again to power off, and then it would